got a good feeling about this weekend. This is where we turn it around. This Georgia team just has 9 lives. In many ways, this is the best offense in the country. DeBoer has this team believing and finding ways to win. You not only need to have Sam Leavitt on the field, but he has to be effective. That is as nasty a rivalry as there is in college football.
Touchdown. These fans are the best in the country. A day like today is why we love college football.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome into the Joel Klatt Show. I am Joel Klatt. This show is brought to you by Graduate by Hilton. We thank them for their support, as always. Hey, please subscribe to the show on YouTube if you haven't done so already. We would very much appreciate that. And then follow us on social media, wherever you like to social media. You can do that at Joel Klatt Show. Big episode here ready for you. Picks and previews set for what is, I think, going to be a great weekend of college football. A lot of really good games, a lot of really important games as we start looking to conference races and the college football playoffs. So we dive right into it. Big noon Saturday. Gus, Jenny, and I will be in the Big House as Michigan hosts Washington. Now, this is a game that is massive for this fourth team in the Big Ten. There's a lot of talk about what team is going to be the fourth team from the Big Ten that could separate themselves out and make a push to the college football playoff. Well, one of these teams with a win this weekend can be that team here in the back half of the season. So this is a huge game from a playoff perspective for both of these teams, Washington and Michigan. Last week, Washington was tremendous on offense. DeMond Williams, their quarterback, he became the first player with 400 passing yards and 135 rushing yards in a game since Lamar Jackson. He did it against Syracuse in 2016. This guy can fly, man. He's a bit like Kyler Murray light. Really quick, short area quickness, throws the ball well when he's given protection, and they've got great playmakers on the outside. Really good ones. Denzel Boston, their wide receiver. Jonah Coleman, their running back. I like what I see from this Washington offense. Now, how will Michigan decide to spy or defend DeMond Williams remains to be seen. They can obviously watch Ohio State, who did an excellent job against DeMond Williams in Washington with their defense. But let's face it, Michigan's defense does not resemble Ohio State's defense. They don't have the length and speed in their linebacker core that Ohio State does. So the structure of this defense may have to change just a little bit to account for the quarterback. Remember, we saw Michigan's defense last week against USC get taken advantage of, maybe not by Maava running the football from the quarterback position, but the run game in general. With King Miller doing all the damage there. So how they defend DeMond Williams is going to be important. Washington, very good on offense. Obviously, this is a team that can score points. And defensively, Michigan misses those defensive tackles that they had a year ago. The premise of this defense and the structure of this defense is really first principles, stop the run, build a run wall. What that then allows you to do is have the hard edges from the outside and then let the hybrid players defend and bracket and save coverage. But if you don't build the run wall, then the defense starts to collapse. We saw that last week against USC. We'll see if they can get it back this week against Washington. Last week, they allowed over 6 yards per carry. They're worse since that loss to TCU in the national semifinal in 2022. The other side for Michigan offensively, I say first principles for their defense. Well, that also applies to their offense. They have to get back to running the football first. That's a way to make your young quarterback feel more comfortable and then allow him to be more effective throwing the football. Then you can throw it when you want to versus when you have to. Far too many times last week, they were behind the chains and then they were chasing the score and they got away from what they are foundationally. They need to lean in to what they are foundationally and really run the football well. Hopefully they can get Justice Haynes back for this one. We'll see. His status is a little bit up in the air. Michigan, I'll just say it this way. That program was built on and ultimately won a national championship on sustaining blocks, getting off blocks, tackling well, winning field position. I'm talking about like very foundational things. They did not do that against USC. They need to get back to that if they want to beat Washington this week at home. All right, we move to the SEC, a giant one down between the hedges. Top 10 matchup as Ole Miss is on the road to face Georgia. Now, Georgia is favored by 7.5 in this ball game. Ole Miss is coming off that classic trap game against Washington State in which they did not play well. Washington State is not a good football team, so to only beat them by 3, that's clearly not a good performance. Lane Kiffin knows that. He talked about it after the game. And it's not going to surprise me at all if Ole Miss bounces back, in particular early, and plays well offensively early against Georgia. Georgia has had a habit of starting slow this season, but to beat Georgia, it takes 60 minutes. We saw that, obviously, against Tennessee on the road. We saw that against Auburn. Now this one is at home. We've also seen Georgia turn it up defensively, specifically in the second half. They have 2 second-half shutouts this year, one against Alabama, one against Auburn. Almost allowed them to get back and win that game against Bama. But that's a defense that certainly has it in their bag to play well. But don't be surprised if Ole Miss has an early lead, maybe by multiple possessions in this game, which would not be all that different for Georgia. They seem to be in that position quite often. Lane's going to have a good plan. Trinidad Chambliss, I'm sure, is going to play better than he did a week ago. He's a very good player and generally has been good for them overall. Georgia has not been great getting pressure on the quarterback. They're last in the SEC in QB pressure rate right now, which is a little bit alarming. They've only got 8 sacks in their 6 games. That's the second fewest in the SEC. So they're going to need to try to put pressure on Chambliss some way. Now, I don't see Georgia running away in this game, but I also find it hard to believe that Ole Miss is going to be the team that can go in there and actually kill Georgia in a 60-minute affair. This Georgia team just has 9 lives. It doesn't matter the lead that the opposition has. They come back and they have chances, and then they make plays late in the game. So ultimately, I just don't think Ole Miss is that team. Ole Miss's resume is not great. A lot of one-possession games. Their resume is built on LSU right now, and we don't really know what LSU is. We'll find out more against Vandy. Georgia's 50-2 in their last 52 games between the hedges. Obviously, they lost this year against Bama, but there's something about the resilience of this Georgia team that, listen, I'm going to say Georgia wins the game, 27-24. So without the ability to run away, I think you take the 7.5. Georgia wins it 27-24. I'm taking the 7.5, and Ole Miss is going to cover with those points. Okay, USC in South Bend at Notre Dame. Notre Dame is a 9.5-point favorite in this one. That was a surprising line for me. USC coming off of that really emotional and powerful win over Michigan, and Notre Dame just getting better and better and better since those early losses to open the year. This is the 20th anniversary of the Bush Push, so we're going to see that one about 1 million times this week. I like both of these teams and was surprised that the number was that high. I'll be honest. I think both of these teams can score. I like both of their offenses because both of these offenses are balanced. They can throw it and they can run it. You look at Notre Dame. C.J. Carr has Jeremiah Love, Jadarian Price. They're moving the football and scoring with ease. Now, the competition has not been great since those opening 2 games, and I understand that, but the level of efficiency has been high. USC, on the other hand, I've loved what their offense has, and in many ways, this is the best offense in the country. Jaden Maiava has been terrific. Their new third-string running back, King Miller, ran for 1 million yards on Michigan. He looked absolutely fantastic. And I look at this and listen, they're number 1 in yards per play. They're top 5 in both yards per pass, yards per rush. They're balanced. Their offensive line is so much better than it has been over the last couple of years. So are they more suited to go to South Bend and compete and maybe win a game? Yes, there's no doubt. This is a better version of USC than Lincoln Riley has ever had going into South Bend. But Notre Dame's defense is improving since they gave up that 41 to Texas A&M. So we'll have to see what they play like. There is a big injury in this game. Notre Dame lost their starting center, Ashton Craig, for the season, 2nd straight year. He's going to be out for a length of time. USC's run defense, I don't think it's great. And I know that everyone's saying like, oh, they won the line of scrimmage against Michigan. And yes, that is true. But remember that game style and the way that it happened, it got away from Michigan and they couldn't run the football because of the score. But when they were running it efficiently. So I do think Notre Dame is going to be able to run the football. Weather could be an issue, 50 degrees and potentially some rain. I just don't think Notre Dame is going to be able to run away from USC's offense. I think this offense is too good. Again, number 1 yards per play offense in college football. So while I like Notre Dame to win this game, I think it's a high-scoring, 1-score game, which has been commonplace for USC. I think Notre Dame wins this one 37-30, which means I'm taking the 9.5 for USC in this ball game. All right, we move on. Another giant one in the SEC, Tennessee at Alabama. Alabama at home, 7.5-point favorites. Seems like a big line. However, Tennessee has not won in Bryant-Denny since 2003. That's 10 straight losses there. In a lot of ways, this game for Tennessee is kind of make it or break it for the college football playoff. If they win this game, there's a road. There's no doubt to get to the college football playoff. But if they lose this game, man, it gets difficult. The schedule just doesn't line up to avoid that third loss. And we all believe, in particular with the schedule that they have, that 9-3 probably wouldn't do it for Tennessee. Meanwhile, Alabama is now playing a top 20 team for the fourth straight week. My only question would just be like, how much wear and tear do they have on them here at the back end of this stretch? Ryan Williams has been banged up. He was banged up last week against Missouri, didn't have a catch. Jam Miller, who came back from injury and gave them some life in the run game, he's in concussion protocol at the running back position. So how much life do they have? Now, their quarterback is tremendous. There's no doubt. In fact, I think Ty Simpson is a Heisman candidate. They can throw the football as well as anybody in the country. They really can. Tennessee has the worst pass defense in the SEC. The worst. What's interesting about this is they also have the second most sacks in FBS. And those two things don't really compute. So here's where the game comes down. Here is the key in this football game. Can Tennessee get pressure on Ty Simpson? If they can control the passing game. If they don't, he will eat them alive because they're too good throwing the football. That's the entire key. Can Bama give Ty Simpson time to throw? If so, he's going to hang a ton of points on that secondary. Tennessee, meanwhile, on the offensive side, they're the number one scoring team in the country. They allow only 4 sacks all year, so they've been protecting Joey Aguilar really well. And Bama hasn't rushed the passer well. So this is not a game in which I think that Bama is all of a sudden going to come out and play some great defensive game. Remember, Vanderbilt had their opportunities early in that game in Bryant-Denny, and Diego Pavia turned the ball over in the red zone a couple of times. So Joey Aguilar can't turn it over. If he doesn't, like, Tennessee's going to be in this game. I really believe that because I trust both of these passing games over the defenses that they're facing. Now, I think Bama has done an incredible job over the last few weeks, and DeBoer has this team believing and finding ways to win. There's no doubt. And their quarterback, man, he's got a lot of guts. And he's got a lot of talent. If Tennessee doesn't make the mistakes, they'll be right there. But ultimately in this one, I'm going to go with a Bama win. I think Bama wins at 34-28. So I'll take the 7.5 with Tennessee. I think that's a big number just based on these defenses, the passing games, and what these quarterbacks could potentially do. So I think it's a bit of a high-scoring affair. Bama wins this one at home, 34-28, but I'm going to take the 7.5 for Tennessee for the pick. Hey, Klatt Show fans, it's time to get out and do something fun, whether it's catching a game, seeing a concert, or attending another live event. So I want to give the sponsor of today's episode, SeatGeek, a massive shout out. With over 35 million downloads, SeatGeek is the number one rated ticketing app. They've got more than 70,000 events listed, everything from sports and concerts to festivals and much more. We're in the thick of college football. The NFL season, MLB playoffs, all are going on. Our team at Joel Klatt Show, we use SeatGeek for all of it. It's quick, it's easy, and you know you're getting a good deal. SeatGeek has your back. Every ticket is rated on a scale of 1 to 10. Green dots are great deals. Red means maybe keep looking. Plus, every ticket is backed by their buyer guarantee. Now, here's the fun part. You can use code CLAT10 for your 10% off your next purchase at SeatGeek. That's 10% off any ticket with promo code CLAT10. Just click in the link in the show description below, and you can download the app. That code is going to be automatically added to your account for later. Big shout out and thanks to SeatGeek for sponsoring today's show. Holy War, BYU, Utah. Let's go. This is a giant game. Ranked matchup in Provo. Utah is a 3.5-point favorite in this one. You've got BYU undefeated. You've got Utah with only the one loss to Texas Tech, who we now know is one of the better teams in college football. This is a huge top 25 matchup and really is going to separate the top end of the Big 12. The winner of this game, inside track to go and play for the Big 12 championship. have an opportunity probably to play Texas Tech in that game. I would be shocked if it's not Texas Tech in that game. And when you look at Utah, they've gotten back on track. I know that we saw them on Big Noon Saturday, and they really failed down the stretch. They got tired, and Texas Tech took it to them in the fourth quarter, and that was impressive for the Red Raiders. But now you look up, and Utah has two dominant performances in their rearview mirror since that loss to Tech. Devin Dampier looks healthy. He was not healthy in that Tech game. He, last week against Arizona State, rushed for 120 yards. So Dampier being healthy makes me believe that this Utah offense could be explosive, in particular running the football. And that does not compute for BYU. I know BYU's played well on the defensive side, but this is an offense that I just don't think is going to be able to score a ton of points, even as well as they've played. And I'll give Bear Brockmeyer a lot of credit because as a true freshman, he's come in and played really well and allowed them to run the football well with LJ Martin. That's kind of a two-headed monster there. LJ Martin averaging over 100 yards per game. I do think they're a bit limited on offense, and that's a problem going up against Utah because of the scheme that they use. See, Utah runs so much man coverage that the box is always heavy with run defenders. And if you can't get away from that man coverage or find explosive plays to get them out of that man coverage, then where do you go? You see, Tech was able to throw the football down the field in one-on-one situations in the fourth quarter. Is BYU going to be able to do that? I don't think so. By the way, BYU's linebacker on their defensive side, he missed last week's game. His name's Jack Kelly. He had an upper body injury. And so he's a bit uncertain for this one. And you're going up against a Utah offense that can run it really well, in particular with their quarterback, Devin Dampier. I think Utah keeps this thing rolling. I think they put themselves back on track to get to the Big 12 championship game. This was my dark horse to go to the playoff from the Big 12. I think they still have a great chance if they keep playing the way that they have in the last couple of weeks to get to that Big 12 championship game with only the one loss to Texas Tech. Now, then you'd start to have to consider yourself like, well, hold on, is the Big 12 going to get two teams in this thing? Because 11-1 with maybe a loss to Texas Tech for a second time, 11-2 Utah, do they have a good enough resume to potentially sneak themselves into the college football playoff? There's a chance. There's a chance. And so in this one, this is a massive game. I don't see BYU scoring many points in this game. I like Utah to cover the 3.5. I like them to win this one something like 21-13. It's going to be nasty, defensive-oriented early in this game. That is as nasty a rivalry as there is in college football. Yes, you heard that right. And this one's going to be a great game. That one's on Fox later. By the way, Big Noon Kickoff is going to be live from Provo, leading into our game in Ann Arbor. So Big Noon Kickoff is going to be live in Provo. That's going to be a great environment there as Utah gets set to take on BYU. Let's go back to the SEC. LSU at Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt in a top 25 matchup, favored by 2.5 in this one. They're coming off of a bye, and they're in a favored ranked matchup. We don't see this often. In fact, maybe ever. I don't think that there's any game that I can think of, and we asked our research department, they're like, yeah, we went back to the 1970s and can't find a game in which in a ranked matchup, Vanderbilt was favored. LSU's defense, by the way, everybody, has been excellent this year. I mean, excellent. Blake Baker, their defensive coordinator, has done a marvelous job fixing that defense. They're long, they're athletic, they can put pressure on the quarterback. So will Vanderbilt be able to score? I think it's a bad matchup for Vanderbilt. I really do. Because they have the athletes, speaking of LSU, to combat Diego Pavia, his creativity, his willingness to play in the broken down play, scramble around, off schedule. That's kind of right up LSU's alley from a defensive perspective. That's why I like this matchup. Now, offensively, I know Nussmeier has been a little bit banged up. He had that abdomen injury early in the year, picked up what looked like an ankle injury against South Carolina last week. But LSU is showing some signs of life, in particular in the run game. They ran it a lot better last week for 166 yards. It's still a bit of a struggle for them. But again, I don't think this is a team that has to be dominant in the run game in order to play quality offense. I think this is a team that can lean on their quarterback, and then if the opportunity arises, then run the football and run it efficiently. And if they can do that, then they should win this game. A loss here would add a ton of pressure to Brian Kelly. Looking forward at that schedule the rest of the way for LSU, the high expectations of what they had coming into this season with Nussmeier being back. And if you were to tell an LSU fan at the beginning of the year, hey, Blake Baker's going to fix your defense, and your defense is going to be one of the better defenses in college football, you'd say, oh, we're 11-1 in the SEC championship game. So if that's not the case and the culprit is the offense, then there's going to be a lot of scrutiny turned towards to Brian Kelly. He was brought in to elevate them to go win a national championship. That's why he left Notre Dame. And so a loss to Vanderbilt on the road in a ranked matchup, that would not be a good look. Again, Vanderbilt's favored by 2.5. I like LSU. The matchup to me is good for LSU because of their athleticism on defense. So LSU wins this one 20-17. LSU hasn't scored over 20 against an FBS opponent, a Power 4 opponent. So I don't think that they have to do that, but they hold Vanderbilt to 17, which means that I'm taking the 2.5. A lot of these road teams, I'm taking these points. I think they're going to be close games, close October games, and we're starting to see the cream rise to the top here in college football. Another really good one in the Big 12. Texas Tech on the road at Arizona State. Tech is favored by 8.5 in this one. Joey McGuire has done such a good job. That's a good football team, guys. Really good football team. Both of these teams have questions about their starting quarterbacks coming into this game. Both could return, and both could not play. So Baron Morton for Texas Tech, Sam Leavitt for Arizona State. Now, that is a much bigger deal for Arizona State than it is Texas Tech. We've already seen Will Hammond, the backup for Texas Tech, come in twice and lead a very efficient and potent offense. Now, he wasn't quite as good against Kansas last week when he came in for an injured Baron Morton as he was when he came in for an injured Baron Morton against Utah late in that game. But now he's probably going to have more snaps and more reps in practice and be ready to go. One thing he can do is run. He's competitive. He can throw the football really well down the field, and he's going to need to play that way. Now, Sam Leavitt, they have to have him for Arizona State. They do not win this game. And candidly, they're not close to winning this game without Sam Leavitt at quarterback. Now, he has been practicing with the ones this week. That's a good sign. He also did that last week, and he didn't end up playing against Utah. He was on the sideline with a boot on that foot. They did say he's doing a little bit more this week. They need him on the field. But here's the hard part. That defense for Tech is excellent. Jacob Rodriguez is likely your Butkus Award winner at the linebacker position, at least at the halfway point in the season. He's been outstanding. David Bailey, the pass rusher. Romello Height, the pass rusher. You not only need to have Sam Leavitt on the field, but he has to be effective. Can he be effective even if he's hobbled? Not against this defense. ASU also lost starting offensive lineman Ben Coleman for the season. He started the first 5 games at center, moved over to left guard versus Utah, but then he's now hurt. I don't love this matchup for Arizona State. If you're telling me that Sam Leavitt is not going to be 100%, then there's not real chance for Arizona State to win this game. I love what Sheil Wood, the coordinator for Tech, does. They're likely without Skylar Gill-Howard for a little bit, but hopefully he's avoided the catastrophic injury, their defensive tackle, and could potentially come back at some point this year. I already mentioned David Bailey. He's got 8.5 sacks. That's tied for most in the country. He'll be staring down Sam Leavitt if Leavitt's hobbled at all the entire game. The balance for Tech is what impresses me on their offensive side. They can throw it. They can run it. Cameron Dickey, their running back, he ran it for 260 yards last week in a win over Kansas. They ran it for over 370 yards as a team, and yet they can still be explosive in the passing game. Utah ran all over this Arizona State defense last week. Now they have another quality run game coming in, and they're going to have to stop them. I don't see it. So, listen, 8.5 is a lot, but if you're telling me I can take Texas Tech in a game that's like 30-21 and I can cover the 8.5, I've got to do that because I believe Texas Tech is that good. Both sides of the ball, they're that balanced on the offensive side, and I think Joey McGuire's got something really special in Lubbock. So I'm going to say Tech covers the 8.5. Let's take a look at the picks. We went through a lot of games today. There's a lot of good ones. All right. Between the hedges, Ole Miss at Georgia. I think that that's a close win for Georgia, but they have trouble, as they have all year long, pulling away from teams. So I'm actually going to take the 7.5 in a loss for Ole Miss, but I'm going to take those 7.5. Same type of thing with Notre Dame and SC. I think Notre Dame wins the game, but that's going to be within a score. The USC's offense is just too good right now. So I'm going to take the 9.5 there on the road. Tennessee and Alabama, similar. Both offenses, I think, will be explosive. Both passing games have the ability to really put up some points in this game. So I'm going to take the 7.5 in a Bama win at home, and Tennessee covers. The Holy War, I like Utah on this one. They're starting to hit their stride. BYU, I don't know if they have enough on offense to hang with Utah, in particular with their aggressive style of defense that Utah likes to play. So I think Utah covers the 3.5 as a favorite. They win this one outright on the road. LSU and Vandy. LSU getting 2.5. I'm taking it. It's a bad matchup for Vanderbilt's offense. Diego Pavia has to run around and be creative on the outside of the scheme. Well, LSU's defense is long and athletic. They play great under Blake Baker. So I'm taking LSU in an outright win. They cover the 2.5. And then Texas Tech covers the 8.5 on the road against Arizona State. That injury to Sam Leavitt, it just doesn't sit well with me. Tech is too good on both sides of the ball. So there are the picks. We're 3-3 last week. We're 15-21 against the spread on the season. I know it's not great, but I have a good feeling about this. Like Ben Crenshaw and the Ryder Cup from years, I got a good feeling about this weekend. This is where we turn it around. Hey, remember to subscribe to the show if you would. We would very much appreciate that. Follow us on social media at Joel Klatt Show. We'll be back next Monday with a full recap of what we anticipate to be an incredible day of college football. We'll see you then.